To this day. To this day.
Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
Off the Top Reviews, I am Bushido's Spirit. This is my Power Book 2 Ghost, Season 1, Episode 3, Play the Game review. Now, the last week's review was kind of rushed, so it was less detailed than usual. But this week, I'll see if I can make up for that. And before I get into all of that, be sure to like, comment, and sub to the channel. We do TV show reviews here. Also, we talk about the entertainment industry via our podcast. So be sure to check that out. Now, there were two things that I missed last week that I didn't really talk about or discuss at great lengths. One of those two things is Monet tells Ramirez to dig up information on Tariq. And also Tariq asks Diana if he could speak with her father. Those are two things that I forgot to talk about or wasn't aware of, things that I overlooked last week. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this week's episode. Starting off with the beginning of the episode, a day in the life of Cain. So for the first time, we get to finally see Monet's family's drug trafficking. Because we didn't see that before. We get to see Cain and Drew make drug runs. And I thought that that was much needed insight. Also a great start to the episode. Moving on from there, Tasha wants to be put on the stand. And McClane and Paula think this is a bad idea. We'll get to more of that later. Professor Simmons doesn't like Tariq's takes. He believes he isn't advanced enough to understand the material. And this is pretty interesting. It's the first time we see someone challenge Tariq's intellect, and it'll make for interesting conversations when we dive more into the school aspect of the show. And last season I had a big issue with everyone telling me that Tariq was intelligent. I think this school aspect of the show will show me that actual intellect. So going back to his conflict with Simmons, what started that conflict was Tariq coming to class late again, and him being known for not finishing the book in its entirety. So we can already see that pressures are getting to Tariq. He is involved in way too many things at the same time. Drug trafficking to pay McClane, doing Zeke's schoolwork, as well as his own schoolwork. On top of that, Canonical Studies has him reading books and doing more essays than your typical student. And it will only get worse once he expands his drug trafficking. And this is the pressure he placed upon himself. The penalty of trying to be the breadwinner for his family when no one expects him to be. Everything he is doing is purely selfless, the complete opposite of what he was in the original series. His character has changed a bit. I'm sure he still enjoys being a dope boy, but his reasons are legitimate now. But this life is entirely manufactured by him. Had he not been selfish enough to kill Ghost, his family would have been better off and would not require so much of him at this time. Simmons attempts to embarrass Tariq in front of the class, but it backfires. He is of the impression Tariq doesn't care, but it's more to it than that. Simmons' true disdain for Tariq is his unwillingness to fall in line. Hell, someone in Tariq's position who barely got in this course should be on his hands and knees begging to fit in, not challenge him. After all, his unique perspective on the material is due to a lack of understanding, not a difference of opinion. Also, I didn't really care about any of the Socrates talk, but I did see the parallels between Socrates and his father and the manner in which he discussed them both. So yeah, take that as you may. After class, him and Lauren have a discussion, and she essentially tells him to not let his ambitions blind him. His need to always win doesn't have a good outcome. And that is the exact reason her brother, who is similar, ended up in rehab. So don't put unnecessary stress on yourself. There are bigger goals to accomplish. And in his case, she is absolutely right. More right than she even knows. Anyway, moving on. Tasha attempts to build a relationship with Layla. And Layla is the reason she got those pills. Because Layla is having sex with a CO, a corrections officer, and she needs to not get pregnant. Tasha gives her the pills in exchange for some power, she hopes. Layla doesn't seem interested at first, but she eventually comes around. Also, this scene we get introduced to Bishop, another CO, who is spying on Tasha for Lorenzo. And the next thing I want to talk about was Monet. Because when we first meet her, we believe that she's fully in charge, but that's not the case, obviously. When it comes to making major decisions, she must talk to Lorenzo, her husband. And in this episode, the dilemma is Little Guap and the rest of the GTG niggas are being too flashy. Monet wants to get rid of them, but Lorenzo can't. He is loyal to Little Guap's father. Lorenzo tells Monet to send Drew and not Cain. And from the beginning sequence of the episode, we see the difference between the two. Drew has a softer touch, but lacks experience in these matters, but keeps a cool head and is more beneficial for the business overall. Cain is a killer, and he is unpredictable. Cain is more like Monet, and Drew is more like his father. Well, actually, I don't even fully know about that. Maybe that's just a reach at this point in time, because we don't truly know who Lorenzo is, but he seems cool right now. Tariq asks Zeke if he can talk to Monet, and he says his reasoning for this is to get permission to date Diana, but clearly he is using her, Diana, to get to Lorenzo and Monet. Zeke tells Tariq Monet wants to keep family separate from school life, and Tariq knows this means keep him in the dark about the family business. McLean and Paula aren't convinced Tasha should take the stand, but she's determined to do so they stage a mock trial. Tasha puts on a convincing performance, but she has to now be cross-examined. McLean brings in Tamika, her original lawyer, the woman she fired, and things don't go so well. Tamika completely embarrasses Tasha, digs straight in her ass. No lubricant. And that's precisely what McLean and Paula needed to prove to Tasha she wasn't ready, and that if she hopes to win, she needs to tell the truth. McLean then asks Tamika to join his team in defending Tasha. Tamika declines. Davis brings up that her and Saxe were in cahoots, and that he finds it odd that Saxe picked her in particular to help Tasha out. But that's not enough to sway Tamika. However, based off her reaction, Davis knows this case is only a ploy to cover Saxe's ass. But his partner is not so convinced. Paula wants to be rid of this case, to be rid of Tasha. She doesn't believe in her ability to sell that story. Also this episode, we discovered that Diana is jealous of Zeke because he gets to play ball and have a normal life. But Monet won't let her. She keeps Diana close. She believes everyone in the family needs to do what's best for the family, and college basketball doesn't benefit them at all, especially women's basketball that doesn't pay nearly as enough as males. She also wants Tariq to stay away. She knows he is cancer, a troublemaker. It's not explained how she knows that, but maybe her cop friend did his job. She seems to be well informed. Zeke had conflict this episode. He is currently on probation due to his poor academic record, so he can't play at all. But thanks to Tariq, eventually he'll be back on the court. And some of his teammates find that odd, especially Connor, who is enjoying the starting shooting guard position in his absence. Monet attempts to go see Zeke play ball, but is stopped by the coach, who tells her he is still out for the time being. The coach also advises Zeke to do a press conference to put fans at ease until he arrives back on the court. So Zeke speaks to reporters at the request of his coach to ease concerns. But Connor, his replacement, is there. The press asks Zeke what he thinks of Connor's performance, and he essentially shits on his own teammate, which doesn't look good and is proof he isn't a team player. While this is bad for Zeke, this is positive for Tariq. This makes him more valuable in the eyes of Monet, because the press conference made things worse. Him actually being on the court will solve all of those issues, and he'll only be able to do that if Tariq continues improving his grades. Speaking of Tariq, he enlists Epiphany for a mission. He needs her to visit Scott, the other trafficker on campus, and she's only there to stall him out while Tariq and Braden sell their product at the parties. With Scott out of the picture, they're bound to make more money. And they did make more money, but the money they made wasn't nearly enough. Not enough for Tariq. The next scene, we get introduced to Little Guap, and he can't remember words, but his girlfriend is there to finish his sentences. And this doesn't seem like the type of nigga that's good for business. He seems kinda unreasonable, which makes him the perfect foe to fuck up Drew's attempt at reasoning. But Drew tries anyway. He gives him a compliment. Before he tells him, Monet says cool it on all that Insta Live shit, and they've been showing a lot of money on live streams. But Guap doesn't seem to care. Everyone knows Drew is soft. He immediately begins live streaming in his face. He even tried to film Drew. Drew slaps the phone out of his hand. The two have a standoff. Then out of nowhere, Cain shows up. Well, not out of nowhere. Monet tells Cain to go with Drew because she knows that Drew is not built for it. But Lorenzo wants Drew to go because Drew is the most capable successor, even if he doesn't make people fear him. Anyway, Cain shows up. Guap's dick shrivels and he backs down immediately seeing Cain there. Cain fires a couple rounds in the roof as a warning for these GT niggas. Then him and Drew run out. Cops hear those shots and pull up. Two in a car. One is Ramirez, Monet's lover. The other cop starts to chase Cain and Drew. He corners them. Cain sees him approaching and prepares his weapon. He is about to kill the cop, but Ramirez tells the officer he saw the perps go the other way, saving this guy's life. Later that night, Ramirez tells Monet she needs to put her business on pause because Little Guap and the GT niggas got the block hot as shit right now. But she refuses. The next morning, Lorenzo and Monet discuss the business. Lorenzo believes her methods are questionable. He wants Drew to take over because Cain is unpredictable. Monet wants it to be Diana. Lorenzo wants Diana to go to school, which is the exact opposite of what Monet wants for her. At school, Tariq gives in to Lauren's advice and decides to write his paper the way Simmons wants him to. But to his and her surprise, he was given a no credit. Apparently, Simmons doesn't grade papers. Reynolds does. And Reynolds heard his true opinion of the material in class, which he chose to change for the paper. Tariq visits Reynolds to get credit for his work, but Reynolds tells him he needs to use his voice and not fall in line. Otherwise, that defeats the purpose of him being here, which I kind of agree with, but he could have at least gave my man some credit. Anyway, Monet and Diana get into a heated discussion. Monet believes she went behind her back and called Lorenzo and told him that she wanted to go to school and play ball, which would explain why he is pushing for her to go to school and for Drew to take over. Monet checks the burner phone and there was no record of the call being made, but we all know that she made that call. Later in the episode, Monet finds the actual phone and smashes it, telling Diana to never go behind her back again. Speaking of heated discussions, Tariq is upset with Zeke because he is a lazy bum ass nigga. The arrangement was for him to help Zeke pass, not do all of his work. This man Zeke doesn't even tell Tariq when his papers are due, and all he does is sit around playing 2K. So Tariq takes advantage of this, Zeke's guilt about not helping out. He tells Zeke he needs another favor since he got him working so hard, and Zeke manages to come through on that favor. He arranges a meeting between Tariq and Monet, tricking Monet because she only agreed to see Zeke. She was not aware that Tariq was there, but decides to go along with it. And she agrees to work with Tariq after he explains how much money there is to be made on campus, only as long as he helps Zeke stay in school. She, however, doesn't fully trust Tariq, so she has Lorenzo call Tasha. Lorenzo tells Tasha if she doesn't force Tariq to do what they say, he'll be killed. Lastly, Reynolds and Milgram's relationship is not so good at the moment. Milgram is no longer answering his phone calls. I guess that made Reynolds invite a Milgram lookalike over. This lookalike just happens to be one of his students. She is a super fan and a super freak. The two start getting it on. Milgram enters her office next door and overhears the two bumping. She leaves quickly. You can tell she still loves Reynolds. I'm not too interested in this storyline. Reynolds and Milgram. I don't really care about these two characters, but hopefully they patch things up. I'm glad that they didn't spend too much time on this. Like outside of canonical studies, what will be the effect of these two relationships? How does their relationship tie into what Tariq is currently doing? I'm interested to see how they make that connection. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened in the episode, all the key points. And there is some things that I want to talk about because I don't understand why Monet wants Diana to take over the business. As a viewer, we didn't really see anything from Diana as far as drug trafficking. We haven't seen her lift a finger when it comes to the family business. So I'm wondering where all this confidence Monet has for her is coming from. I think we need to see that. Because right now I take issue with Monet pushing Zeke to go pro and be a regular kid, but not her own daughter, who was said to be better than Zeke. at basketball. I'm just confused. Like, she wants Diana to take over, but the show hasn't shown us why. For the most part, Drew and Cain has handled the drug trafficking. Speaking of Diana, I wonder the outcome of her relationship with Tariq. Clearly he is using her to get to her father and mother. Hell, he's probably more interested in Lauren at this point. But what will Lauren think when she finds out he is selling drugs? What's also interesting is that Lauren could be Tariq's Angela. Someone who sees the potential in him and is pushing him to leave his past behind. Diana seems to be the same way. I think her interest in Tariq is the same, but they relate more due to their family being similar. Something I may go in depth on in another video. The parallels between Ghost and Tariq. How Brayden is just Tommy. Diana, Tasha. Lauren, Angela. I'm sure it's possible you can do that. I don't know. Anyway, that is my review of this week's episode. Tune in next week. Hopefully I'll have more to say. Peace the fuck out.